looks proper officey.
Tonight's big story is China defends the floating barrier it installed at Scarborough Shoal, while the Philippines says it will take all appropriate actions to remove it.
Turns out, the Office of the Vice President spent the 125 million pesos in confidential funds it got in 2022 in a mere 11 days, even quicker than the 19 days initially reported by Cagayan lawmakers.
And Philhealth says it has resolved the breach to its computer systems, which was hit by ransomware over the weekend.
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina.
I'm Gretchen.
And I'm Shawn.
There's a new line over disputed waters. It's not an imaginary line like China's 10-dash line, just to make that clear. But I'm going to show you some footage. And as you will see in it, this footage was released by the PCG, or the Philippine Coast Guard. It's a 300-meter floating barrier in the southern portion of Bajo de Masinloc. This is the only entrance in and out of Panatag Shoal, otherwise known as Scarborough Shoal. In these photos, you can see the extent of that barrier. The barrier was discovered during a routine maritime patrol by Coast Guard and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources officials on September 22. Filipino fishermen who attempted to access the area were seen being surrounded and chased away by Chinese ships.
So, ang tendency, if you're going to insist in proceeding dun sa shoal, maaaring kainin ng propeller mo yung mga net na nasa ilalim nung floating barrier.
Now, on that same day, a Chinese Coast Guard ship also blocked a Philippine BFAR ship by flashing an LED warning sign. The message read, "This is China Coast Guard Vessel 3105. Huangyan Island has been Chinese inherent territory since ancient times. Your vessel has entered the sea area under the jurisdiction of the People's Republic of China without permission, threatening the safety of our islands and reefs. Please leave immediately."
Sobrang delikado rin ng net, no? For like big sea creatures like mga pawikan, they always get stuck in those things. Bukod pa syempre na nafe-threaten yung fishermen natin. A lot of their livelihood comes from the Panatag Shoal or the Scarborough Shoal, which is very, very fish-rich.
Yeah, that's what we're finding out. Apparently, they do get a lot of. It's a big catch that they get out
Apparently,
of
there were
Panatag
about
Shoal.
50 plus ships, fishing vessels waiting outside the barrier that couldn't get in to do their livelihood.
Right, and again, this is part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, EEZ. Again, what it means is that we should have exclusive access to the resources within that area.
This is
right?
definitely an escalation on China's part as to how they have responded. They said that we are the ones invading their territory.
Sabi nila, political drama daw to.
That was the other incident.
That was the other incident. What was this? They're just inflaming it.
Was it the water cannon? No, it was not the water cannon. It was the
one
previous
with
incident before this. Itong floating barrier naman, they said, it's Coast Guard. This
Political
is verbatim,
drama yung sinabi niya na nung nalabas tayo ng video, seeing the corals underneath.
The damaged corals, you're right.
They
You're right.
denied that story.
Yes.
But then our officials said that that's the prelude to being able to
do reclamation activities. Nevertheless,
the response to this one, the floating barrier, they said, is that their Coast Guard took necessary measures in accordance with the law to drive away the Philippine vessel. Again, it's coming from a place where they believe that area
It's
is
their
theirs.
territory.
That's their sovereignty, according to Beijing, and therefore it's only their right within the law to chase away any intruders.
But as we all know, it's not just about the floating barriers. A sandbar near Pag-asa Island, Sandy K2, was also found to be full of dead and crushed corals, according to this video that is now going viral on social media. Sandy K2 is one of the 4 sandbars located in the West Philippine Sea. Maritime experts believe that this is a common procedure done by China before it starts doing reclamation activities. The PCG, though, has yet to confirm this.
We have official report regarding this, but we're still waiting for the national government to give us clearance to publicize our survey that we conducted and also our investigation.
Well, what's confirmed as of now is the destruction of corals at Sabina Shoal and Iroquois Reef during the underwater survey in July and August. Malinaw sa atin na may destruction na nangyari. As to who's responsible for that, we don't have evidence yet to point to the suspect.
At yan nga yung sinasabing political drama ng
That's
China.
right.
Ito naman ang sagot ni Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro about this latest incident. So the statement of China that the grounded Sierra Madre is causing irrevocable harm is, to put it as politely as possible, hypocritical. China continues to damage the West Philippine Sea by its illegal reclamation activities in the South China Sea, and it was found to be a violator of international law in the 2016 Arbitral Award when such activities damage the maritime environment. The Philippine Coast Guard also slammed China over that political drama remark. Here's what Commodore J. Tariela had to say.
We don't do drama. We produce factual events, truthful narratives. We don't make up stories. The stories that we provide are all supported by pictures, footages, and again, that's not drama. That's purely a real story.
So how will the Philippine government respond to China's latest aggression? Let's bring in Gio Robles for the details. Go ahead, Gio.
Shawn, Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri has called on the Philippine Coast Guard to cut and remove all illegal structures at the West Philippine Sea. National Security Council Deputy General Jonathan Malaya also believes that it's the Philippines' right to remove these barriers, as these are installed within 200 nautical miles from the shores of Zambales. NSA Secretary Eduardo Año meanwhile said that they have informed President Bongbong Marcos of the installation of these floating barriers. He assures fishermen that their rights will be protected and that the Philippine government will act to remove these barriers. Maritime expert J. Tariela believes China installed these floating barriers to cover up the damage they have caused on our reefs. For now, the PCG is leaving the next action to the Justice and Foreign Affairs Department. But if you ask Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, it's clear that China violated our rights to our own exclusive economic zone. Back to you, Shawn.
Thank you for that, Gio Robles.
Now, remember that alleged money-swallowing incident in NAIA? Well, House Speaker Martin Romualdez is now asking the head of the Office for Transportation Security to step down immediately. He went so far as to say if the OTS chief doesn't resign, he, as in Romualdez, will personally block the approval of the OTS budget in Congress. The lower house will deliberate the Transportation Department budget on Wednesday. And now, another airport incident has got social media buzzing. We're getting reports of supposed VIP treatment for foreign nationals at an airport in Cagayan. Retired Colonel Ariel Querubin took to social media to share his recent experience in the Tuguegarao airport. Apparently, he and other retired generals were supposed to stay in the Heroes Lounge, but they were informed that it had been reserved for some foreign nationals. The Civil Aviation Authority has been tasked to facilitate the use of Heroes Lounges for Medal of Valor awardees, their dependents, and uniformed personnel. It's not clear whether there has been a change of policy use over the Heroes Lounge for non-uniformed VIPs and regular airport passengers.
Well, here to talk about that is one of the most decorated soldiers in Philippine history and a Medal of Valor recipient, retired General Ariel Querubin. Good evening, Colonel. Thank you so much for coming all this way to join us.
Yeah, good evening, Gretchen. Good evening, Regina. And good evening, Shawn. And to all the televiewers, good evening.
Colonel, first things first, you were in Cagayan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was in Cagayan. I visited actually Isabela and Cagayan. I went around, talked to the troops I talked to them about leadership, patriotism, and heroism.
Is that what
So-
you've been busy with nowadays? A quick look at your Facebook page, Colonel, shows.
Sinistalk ka ni Shawn, sorry.
Matagal ko na fina-follow si Colonel, no? More than 10
Ayun pala.
years
Oh,
na.
you've got a fan in Shawn
Yeah.
pala.
So, Colonel, I know you go around. You go to Samar, all over,
Yes,
different
yes.
provinces. Is that what you do? Do you talk to the troops and
I-
give leadership trainings?
No, I just talk to them and just emphasize their roles in society, patriotism, and heroism. And when I talk to the local government unit that the head of, or say the mayors, I always tell them, you know, the best antidote really to insurgency and violent extremism is good governance.
Okay, before we
Eh,
get
yeah.
deeper into the talk about our soldiers there in Cagayan, tatanong po namin, ano po ba nangyari dun sa airport? Na-clarify na po ba?
Until now, no, kasi nagpapasahan sila ng sisi. What actually happened was while we were waiting for our flight, some officers there na kasama ko rin, na retired, they coordinated with the manager, airport manager. And the airport manager said, the lounge is not cannot be used because it was reserved for VIP. So they gave their number, and then the manager didn't get back. Meaning, ibig sabihin, wala talaga siyang
Hinayaan lang kayo?
Yeah, disapproved, no? Hinayaan na. So ngayon, bumalik yung mga officers na, sir, sabi niya, yung lounge kasi may nag-occupy na. So hindi natin magamit. Sabi ko, no problem kasi naman paalis na rin tayo, paalis na rin kami. So finally, we reached the pre-departure. And then when I saw, it was Heroes Lounge. So I became
Even
so...
I know what the Heroes Lounge is for. It's for uniformed personnel.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I became curious. I pushed the door and then I saw meron restroom. So I asked permission from them. Can I use the restroom? Itong Chinese-looking guys stared at me.
Yeah.
And then they don't know how to speak English.
Okay.
That's how you know the Chinese.
Yeah, ayoko magsabi na pero Chinese-looking.
Yeah.
Pero ano po, bakit po sila yung nandun? Oo.
Yun ang dapat siguro nilang i-explain din.
Wala
kasi,
pa pong paliwanag sa inyo.
ayoko na kasi it's not really official, no? Puro sabi-sabi lang.
So there has been no official reply to your Facebook post kung ano talaga yung nangyari
Yes,
at kung sino sila.
except yung sabi daw pa rin, no? Na they'll be sending I think the security manager of the OTR to investigate.
Okay.
So hanggang ganun pa naman.
All right. So yun nga. So balik tayo.
I thought I saw a response somewhere on social media wherein they did respond to this issue na saying that where they fell short is they didn't tell you that you also can access it kahit na may tao. Hindi naman daw exclusive to the Chinese. That's what I saw.
I don't think that really happened, no? Kasi naman madali lang naman kami nandun na eh.
Oo.
Nagpapasahan nga sila ngayon eh. Kung indeed there was a reply. Hindi naman ganun na nangyari kasi it was really the manager who disapproved. Ngayon, ang alam ko rin sinasabi niyo, pinapasa niya ngayon doon sa gwardiya na the guard wasn't able to inform me raw na I can
okay lang
use.
sana.
Oo. Pero yung ang dating parang pwede rin siyang gumamit. Pwede rin. Meaning, makikigamit din ako dahil meron na nga ron tao. Sa akin, okay lang din. Sana hindi naman nila, kasi siyempre, yung Heroes Lounge, really, were meant for men in uniform, military and police, di ba? Exclusively. Pagkatapos makita namin doon, parang nare-receive ko na mga text from soldiers, no? Policemen. Sir, bakit ganun? Binubuli na tayo sa West Philippine Sea. Tapos ngayon, binibigyan pa rin sila ng special treatment, no? So, hindi ko maintindihan din kung bakit mismong mga tao natin o mga Pilipino, nakikita na nila kung ano yung nangyayari. Pero ganun pa, nasan na yung, alam mo yung patriotism ba? Or, ako, kasi all my life, I've been fighting enemies of the state. I risked my life. I landed at the morgue of the Quirino Neighbor Hospital, no, fighting for what I believe in.
And in fact, to that end, you've received a number of awards. Baka hindi alam not a lot of people know this,
60
but
plus
you have a
yata.
Medal of Valor, which is the
Yes,
highest military
yes.
award. You have 3 Distinguished Service Stars,
Yes.
7 Gold Cross
Yes,
medals,
yes.
and 12 Military Merit Medals, which speaks volumes about your service to the country.
Yes.
So we can understand why it's this incident. Baka kasabihin ng iba na, it's just such a petty incident. Baka isipin nila, we're being petty about this. But this is the issue, right?
Yes, and what worries us, really, if they can do it to us, senior officers, paano na lang dun sa mga low-ranking, maybe, members of the armed forces and the police, no? Di wala na talaga, no? Kung kaya pala nilang gawin sa amin to, di mas lalo na sa kanila.
Well, Colonel, ano yung palagay ninyo dito sa mga nangyayari sa West Philippine Sea? Lalo na itong recent news natin that they're becoming more aggressive. China, they're putting up floating barriers and yung corals natin. I mean, just being there, seeing all these things happen.
Yeah, I feel so bad because in the late 70s and early 80s, Marines were manning those islands.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we were pulled out because we were maneuver force. We were told to run after the insurgents, no? But you look, who are the insurgents? The CPP, NPA? They're Mao-inspired. China. When they took over the Mischief Reef, there was this laptop that was recovered from the CPP, NPA. And then we found out it has, plans for their plan for future plans, and it says strengthen foothold along the shorelines, meaning the West Philippine west coast.
Yeah.
And remember, the first when the secession broke out, the country that was identified to be supplying firearms was, of course, Pakistan, who is a surrogate of China. So now you can see they kept us busy with our internal problem while they were doing their thing in the West
In the
Philippine
West.
Sea.
So, Colonel, you don't agree with the civilianized approach to this? Do you think that the Marines, the Navy should be in the front lines as opposed to the Coast Guard?
It's like this. We should be thinking out of the box because when this shallow reef was taken over by Malaysia from us, after our people manning that detachment, after a high tide, really left the shoal or reef. When we came back, there was already a container ban there, and then a helipad. At first, they said it was a diving resort, and then later on, they put up a helipad and then heliport, and then now it's a Navy base.
Having
So-
said that, do you think the Marines should be stationed back in the West Coast?
It's not really putting the Marines, because during those times when Marines were there, we had this defense plan called hammer and anvil. What do you mean by that? Hammer refers to the enemy, and the anvil, the Marines. And during those times, the Marines, without any reinforcement, were willing to die with their salty boots on. So ganun kami noon hanggang ngayon naman siguro, lahat naman ng sundalo, they should be very patriotic ba?
Kamusta po yung moral ng mga sundalo natin sa Cagayan?
Well, after what happened, syempre, ganito yung pala yung nangyayari rin. Masama ang loob nila. If you talk about moral, syempre, bumababa. If they can do that to us, how much more sa kanila?
You're talking about the airport incident?
Yes, about that.
I'm assuming, Colonel, correct me if I'm wrong, you were there to talk to the troops. Recently, of course, yung mainit na balita doon is magkakaroon ng EDSA site sa Cagayan. Not exactly on the west coast, but very near Taiwan. How are the troops stationed there taking that news? Pabor ba sila? We already heard very much from the governor of Cagayan. He was not in favor of it, but mukhang matutuloy po, Colonel.
Well, if you ask the soldiers, they're in favor.
In favor.
Yeah, they're in favor. Hindi ko na dapat i-elaborate kung ano yung mga kasi yung sa optics lang, alam mo naman kung ano yung no? Kung ano yung talagang problema. But they welcome it.
They welcome it.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the government's response so far to what China has been doing in the West Philippine Sea?
I saw...
And by that, we mean not just yung Coast Guard and Navy, but also diplomatically.
Well, it's really, it should be approached ba? Kasi matagal na tayong, puro, binubuli ka, and then we're being subservient ba? Pag sinabi ba natin na amin yan, gera na, hindi naman But we really have to assert, because it is ours, no? It's our sovereignty. Pag sinabi mo ba na, amin yan, gera na, hindi naman Pero sabihin lang natin, insist natin, amin yan Ang problema natin, do we have the capability kunwari na makipaggera? Wala naman But at least, sabi nga nila, kung binuli ka, nakipagbugbugan ka, blooded ka, pero lumaban ka. Diba? Lumaban ka. I mean, hindi naman talaga yung laban na kundi, figurative
You don't go down without a fight. Something like that.
Yes.
But that's what former President Duterte believed, that if we push harder, baka it might end up in war.
Ang sabi niya, hindi naman natin kaya labanan
Ilang beses na sinabi, right?
Well, sabi ko nga, pag sinabi mo ba na amin yan, gera na, hindi naman.
Do you think we're being a bit soft in terms of claiming our territory and staking our claim, at least hanggang dun sa 200 nautical miles?
Now, nagbago naman na yung foreign policy. So makikita naman natin na the armed forces or even the Coast Guard they're looking at it. They're planning. So hindi ko naman pwede sabihin kung ano yung mga plano nila, but they're doing something.
Do you think our problems when it comes to security have already shifted from internal security to international
Well,
security?
we have to. That's why when I go around, I also emphasize that the ROTC program before should be put back. I mean,
Pabor kayo dun, sir.
yes, kasi kung nag-shift na tayo na sa external, yung internal problem natin kasi babalik uli ako nung nasa serbisyo ko. Ang sinasabi nila nung kasi, we should have a lean and mean armed forces and a robust reserve force. When push comes to shove, may hugutin ka kaagad na puwersa, di ba? In Israel, for example, na nangyari yung mga wars nila, yung Kippur War, sino nagmaman na matangkin nila? Mga reservists nila. Di ba? So, hindi naman, pero we should always be proactive ba? kahit
Stay
sa-
one step ahead. So
Yeah.
if as you're saying now, we've been shifting no from external to internal, then now external again. What do you think about the insurgency now? Where is it now? It's already 2023, almost 2024. Since those early days when you were fighting Maoist rebels, do you think we have gone far, or are we stuck in that era pa rin, Colonel?
No, no. It's so nice to hear that they really they were reduced, or there were areas now declared insurgency free. That's why I always tell them, no, if only the LGUs or the government or the whoever is in charge of that area is doing their job, meaning delivering basic services, addressing poverty, social
Development.
injustice, no military abuses, no police brutality. If there are no issues really, there's no insurgency. There's no extreme, violence.
How are we doing on that end? When was the last time you went to the south?
Well, I've been to Eastern Borong, Eastern Samar, and they're insurgency free. I went to Davao, insurgency free. So there are still areas like in Isabela. Isabela, it's already, according to them, insurgency free, and then all these, I think 23 CPP, NPA, still somewhere in Cagayan. They still. It's so hard to look for just 23. It's just like looking.
23 na lang sila?
Yeah, 23 na lang sila.
Your thoughts on the pension reform of the MUP?
Well, I always know my position from the very start is for the active and the pensioners not really to contribute. It is their vested right, and well, so far it's going that way.
Yeah,
It
it
is
seems
going
like
that way.
It's going that way.
Proposal
So
is for them to
I just have to to talk about this, so that probably when it reaches the Senate, then.
The more you talk, the more they listen.
Speaking of the Senate, Colonel, you did run for Senate at one point, along with this, now President Marcos,
Yes,
right? With the under Nationalista, 2025 na po, malapit na po. Is there any chance we'll be seeing you again on the slate?
Well, when I'm asked about that, that's why I'm walking. I'm traveling around, trying to develop my stamina, and probably when I get that stamina, then I'll decide.
Okay, so you haven't decided yet. No concrete plans, but are your doors open?
Well, you always keep doors open.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have. I'm so sorry to cut you short there, but thank you so much for joining us, Medal of Valor awardee, retired Colonel Ariel Querubin. We had to cut it short because we have some breaking news now.
Thank you.
Like I said, some breaking news development. The Philippine Coast Guard has announced that it successfully removed the China-installed floating barrier at Bajo de Masinloc in compliance with instructions by the President. Here's what the statement read.
In compliance with the instruction of the President, the Chairman, National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, Secretary Eduardo Año has directed the Philippine Coast Guard to execute a special operation removing the floating barrier that obstructed the southeast entrance of Bajo de Masinloc. The barrier posed a hazard to navigation, a clear violation of international law. It also hinders the conduct of fishing and livelihood activities of Filipino fisherfolk in BDM, which is an integral part of the Philippine national territory. The 2016 Arbitral Award has affirmed that BDM, or Bajo de Masinloc, is a traditional fishing ground of Filipino fishermen. Thus, any obstruction hindering the livelihoods of Filipino fisherfolk in the shoal violates the international law. It also infringes on the Philippine sovereignty over the BDM. The decisive action of the PCG to remove the barrier aligns with international law and the Philippine sovereignty over the shoal. The PCG remains committed to upholding international law, safeguarding the welfare of Filipino fisherfolk, and protecting the rights of the Philippines in its territorial waters. Some decisive
Colonel,
action there.
baka
is that strong enough?
Maybe you're right. Every time you speak, something happens. Look what happened. May breaking news tayo.
Yeah,
Putol na nila yung barrier, Colonel.
At least, yeah, I would have done the same thing.
You would have
You would have done. You would have
You would have
gone out
swam there and
Yes.
sliced it. You would have, I'm sure.
Ayun din yung iniisip ko kung paano sa gabi, kung paano gagawin niya ng safe. Kanina, yun din nung mag-break yung news ng floating barrier. Sabi ko, parang gusto kong putulin yung lubid.
but-
How to do that safely, right?
But now we fired a shot, so we'll see what Beijing comes back with, right?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, perhaps.
All right, we're
For
going to
that.
pause for a quick one right now. But up next, lawmakers get quite a shock when they find out the Office of the Vice President spent 125 million pesos in confidential funds in just 11 days. That and more when the big story returns.
You're watching the big story here on One News. 125 million pesos in 11 days. That's how quick the Office of the Vice President used up its confidential funds in 2022. That's according to the House Committee on Appropriations Senior Vice Chairperson and Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo. Kimbo revealed this when questioned by House Assistant Minority Leader Arlene Brosas at today's budget hearing. Here's that exchange.
Tinanong ko po ang COA at tinignan ko po ang mga iba't ibang mga reports. Pero hindi po ito nagastos sa loob ng 19 days, kung hindi 11 days po. Madam Speaker.
11 days. Ang hirap no, isipin kasi parang kung surveillance yan, ilang reward payment po yan na aabot ng 11 million per day.
According to Kimbo, COA has asked the OVP to explain and provide more documents to support its use of the 125 million confidential funds in 2022. Kimbo said COA intends to finish the OVP 2022 confidential fund audit by November 15, since agencies have 15 days to respond to an observation memorandum. However, the OVP said that it has not gotten a copy of the Audit Observation Memorandum, or AOM, just yet.
Now, I don't know if this is from all the pressure because there's been intense coverage of this issue and Representative Kimbo is now being seen as the prime defender of the confidential funds. In any case, now she's calling for some safeguards, right? Number one being the creation of a committee to oversee itong CIFs nga, to scrutinize how the lump sum funds are spent. And her proposal is this committee will be composed of 3 lawmakers from the majority and 1 from the minority para may representation. And then She's also proposing extra steps like
Reporting.
Yes,
Reporting to
whichever
Congress.
agency wants it, they have to report to. They have to write a paper
to Congress.
and write a proposal and ask Congress for it, and then also interagency funds, which is the root of this issue from 125 million pesos na to, which was transferred from the office of the president to the office of the vice president. Now she wants interagency transfers to be reported to Congress. So these are some safeguards that she's thrown out now. Don't know if it's going to be
Could be
taken up.
pressure. Maybe.
Yeah.
But as a minority Congressman EDSA Lagman said, dapat hindi siya nagyayari at all. So he is against it. So we'll see where Congress goes on this. There might be long debates. There are 300 mines in there.
Yes.
300 different mines.
Billions in confidential funds we're talking about now. Well, as we said, the talk is now evolved into how to exact transparency from the CIFs. Let's find out more from Marian Enriquez. Man, what do you have for us?
Yes, Reg, due to various issues regarding the confidential and intelligence funds, lawmakers are now looking to amend Joint Circular 2015-01 that provides guidelines. Marikina 2nd District Representative Stella Kimbo suggested that government offices should report to Congress any interagency transfer of CIFs. Kimbo emphasized that agencies asking for CIF should justify why they need it, just like what government-owned and controlled corporations or GOTCs are required to do. By 1st District Representative EDSA Lagman, however, maintained that interagency fund transfers of CIFs should be totally banned. According to Lagman, there should be more emphasis on limiting which agencies can seek CIF by ensuring that the use of these funds is consistent with the mandate of the office. He also pushed for the public disclosure on how CIF is being used without jeopardizing national security. Reg.
All right, good to know. Thanks for that update, Marian Enriquez.
Let's pause for a quick breather. Right after that, state insurer Philhealth got attacked by Medusa ransomware. And the question now is how many user accounts were actually exposed? We'll get the details on that when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
The big story over the weekend, Philhealth getting hit by a ransomware attack. The state insurer is now trying to restore its systems after a cyber attack that sought $300,000 or 17 million pesos in ransom in exchange for stolen personal data. Philhealth and the DICT, however, assured that no private data has been compromised.
We deemed it necessary to shut down all our operational systems to make sure and to contain the incident para maiwasan na kumalat siya. And of course, in diagnosing kung ano talaga nangyari,
may nakikita lang namin mga nakuhang information, yung mga internal memos na pinadala. So far, as of today, wala pa kami nakikitang mga personal na information ng mga pasyente o mga PhilHealth members.
Naalala ko tuloy yung
Sorry, I'm
pinapanood ko
laughing
sa
because of the sound, but
Pinapanood
he's
ko
clearly
siya.
driving somewhere. Anyway, sorry.
No, I was watching the morning show, season 3.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was the issue. Sorry to spoil
Ah,
it.
the ransomware.
But there was a hack
Yeah.
over the network. And that involved like the data of the staff, even up to their private messages.
Yes.
And
Emails, and
lahat,
messages, everything,
lahat.
right?
Oh my gosh, imagine kung nangyari sa atin yun.
I think it's the concern of these times.
It
I
is
mean, if we're
really.
heading towards a digital
Apparently,
transformation.
Medusa,
And Medusa is very advanced, you know. Not only does it go into your system, but it deletes all your hard drives and all your backups so that talagang hostage ka nila.
I mean, I guess that's why it's called Medusa, right? Medusa as in the
Turn into
mythical
stone.
figure with
Yeah,
the
with the
snakes
snakes.
for her hair.
But
Like,
also,
it can go
I don't
anywhere.
think this is the first time that a government system has been
Oh, yeah.
hacked.
No, for sure.
That
Yeah.
also, you know,
It's
leaves
happened
a
a
lot
lot of times
questions
before.
of how
Comelec, di ba?
secure
Yeah.
our and anything digital that we get to do in the future with our agencies,
Yeah.
including our national IDs and our data.
Baka next time sabihin nila, dito na napupunta yung confidential funds,
Trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure this is not the first time that PhilHealth got hacked, or at least suffered an
Parang
outage.
it's not eh.
Minsan
I'm
kasi
trying to
medyo,
recall the last
sometimes
incident
it's a bit less intense, the hacking. It's like they hack the Facebook or the official website, but this time it's the Philhealth system. So right now, manual ulit,
I just hope that they're right, that
no private data had been
personal
compromised.
user data had been compromised. Question now, though, is how are members and healthcare providers dealing with this system shutdown? We have our Mojo Brian Basa for that update. Brian, go ahead.
Hi, Regina. Philhealth says they're working double time to get their systems up and running. The state health insurer says their services will continue, only this time they have no choice but to shift to manual transactions. So what does that mean? Well, for those who are paying their premiums or submitting documents, they'll have to go to the nearest branch for it. For members, meanwhile, who are processing their claims in hospitals, please pack a lot of patience and expect a longer turnaround time. Well, Regina, that's about all we can do for now. And if you ask Information Secretary Ivan John Uy, he says this latest incident is a wake-up call for the government to fund our cybersecurity. Back to you.
Exactly what I want to hear. Pack a lot of
So
patience.
sabi kanina,
Thanks for that update, Brian
I
Basa.
was researching this, and sabi doon, if you need to obtain benefits, you just bring a photocopy of your PhilHealth ID and show it with supporting documents that you're a PhilHealth member.
Ito
If
na
you
lang yung,
need to claim
but here's the
anything.
thing, no, as of 7:30 p.m., that was 30 minutes before we went on air, the Philhealth websites,
Still
claims tab, and the members portal still not accessible.
Oh my goodness.
So yun. So
And
medyo
you know,
tiis-tiis muna ng
the
konti.
thing is, every time you go to a PhilHealth office, on any given day, there's already a massive line of people wanting to
Mahirap
get
siya.
benefits, right?
Minsan, give up ka
Can you
na lang
imagine
eh.
how much more with this downtime? Okay, moving on to other news now, but news that will still aggravate you. Did you guys take EDSA on Saturday?
I tried to avoid it, but you know what? I had Hamilton tickets, so I had no
Ayun,
choice.
Pictures, videos, heavy rains caused knee-deep floods in this part of EDSA near Camp Aguinaldo, leaving some motorists stranded for over an hour. Some parts of EDSA Balintawak were also flooded. The MMDA and DPWH said these areas are not really flood-prone, but flooding got bad. So bad over the weekend due to garbage clogging the drainage system along the thoroughfare. Aside from garbage, authorities also found rocks, an entire panel of plywood, and some plastic materials in one of the drains near Camp Aguinaldo. Authorities are not ruling out the possibility that someone intentionally clogged the drains. They're now investigating the matter.
Medyo nagtaka nga din po kami kasi yung mga bato na nakuha namin is nandun mismo sa tapat ng mga inlet. So, ayaw naman po natin mag-isip nga na baka may mga kababayan tayo na medyo sinadya yung paglalagay ng bato doon.
May mga previous incidents dyan na sinasadya nga po para magkaroon ng pagkakakitaan yung mga tumatawid, kakalungin or papasanin or magtutulak ng mga tumitirik na sasakyan.
Now, what do authorities plan to do to address flooding along EDSA? We have Julie Baiza to give us the answer. Julie?
Gretchen, authorities says they are now formulating a solution to prevent heavy floods along EDSA. In fact, the Metro Manila Council says that since last month, they have been creating a 50-year master plan for the capital region's drainage system. This plan seeks to take into account weather patterns and rainfall projections. Infrastructure Committee of the Management Association, the Philippines Chair Eduardo Yap, meanwhile proposes the construction of underground drainage tunnels along EDSA to efficiently channel floodwaters to the nearest creek. The MMDA, however, sees this suggestion as costly and could eventually face right-of-way challenges. For now, the MMDA calls on the public to be more responsible in disposing their trash. Gretch?
Thank you for that, Julie Baiza. Siyempre, sarap pakinggan ng 50-year master plan, but what do we do about today?
Yeah,
Right?
Layo pa ng 50 years.
good question. And it's, I was gonna say every year it happens, but it's not even 1 year every year. It's like every few months or so.
Pero tama yung report natin na that area of EDSA doesn't usually get flooded. Nagulat rin ako.
That's why they're saying
quite near-
potentially intentional.
Pero feeling ko baka inanod na lang siguro yung mga dumi.
Well, we do have street sweepers who who try to keep our streets
There's
clean.
always yung clearing, drainage clearing operations which you randomly see when you drive around. But I guess maybe a master plan is really what we need.
We do need to get to the bottom of that, though. Right. After the break, we'll get the latest on our athletes competing in the 19th Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Big Story here in One News.
On to some other news. The Philippines bagged its second medal in the 19th Asian Games in Hangzhou, China, courtesy of a bronze medal finish in Wushu. Jones Liabres Inso secured the bronze medal in the men's Tai Chuan and Tai Tsien event. Inso finished the Tai Chuan event with 9.746, ranking second after China. The 26-year-old then continued to impress with a substantial score of 9.740 in the Tai Tsien, earning an impressive total of 19.486 points. Moving on to tennis, teenage tennis star Alex Yala delivered a quick win in the preliminary round, defeating Pakistan's Sara Ibrahim Khan 6-0 to 6-0. This is Yala's maiden Asian Games competition. And for her next match, the 18-year-old will take on India's Rutuja Bosale. Some bad news for Gilas women as the national team's 3x3 team decided to withdraw from the Asian Games. Coach Pat Aquino confirmed that the Asian Games organizers ruled that players cannot participate in both 5-on-5 and 3x3 events. Gilas requested to replace Camille Clarin and Angel Surada with Marga Villanueva and Shelo Pagdulangan, but this was thumbed down, leading Gilas women to withdraw from the latter. Luckily for the Gilas men's 3x3, panalo naman tayo sa first game natin versus Jordan, 13-8. And Gilas was led by FEU standout Brian Sahonia. Slowly distance themselves from Jordan to secure the first win in the tournament. The Gilas men's 3x3 will be back in action on Tuesday afternoon against Chinese Taipei. And for our main event, ika nga, for tonight, the Filipinas are taking on South Korea in a crucial Group E match. A win for the Filipinas here will significantly boost their chances of moving on to the next round of the tournament. The last time that the two teams met was in the semifinals of the AFC Women's Asian Cup in India last year, with South Korea pulling off a 2-0 win.
Sana manalo naman tayo actually kasi the Filipinas have been doing really well
They had a
this
good
year.
run.
Nanalo sila doon sa previous game na alam ko eh. Oo.
Sana manalo naman tayo against South Korea since natalo tayo
Pero
against South
ang
Korea
dami
last
nating
time.
problema dun sa when it comes to the lineup, right? Napansin mo. For both the women's and men's basketball. Dito sa women's, I was looking at it kanina. Apparently, it's under 23 lang yung pwedeng mag-compete doon.
Oh,
So
okay.
the girls that were enlisted are
Had
busy
to.
now with college
Yeah.
and with UAAP and NCAA. Kaya parang last minute.
So same
wala silang
problems, no?
maipalit.
Pareho sa
Oo.
basketball, I think. Pero di ba may 9-year-old skateboarder tayo na nanalo
Yes.
and qualify.
Yes.
And I think also a male skateboarder won a medal. Alright.
We still have Haida Diaz to watch out for. EJ Obiena, of course, is
Oh, yes,
will also
EJ
be
Obiena,
there. Yung mga pambato natin. So
Apparently
our
our
boxers
best
also.
chance at a gold CEJ. And yes, Yumir Marshall, di ba? He beat...
Kanina, di ba? May parang boxing match.
I wasn't able to...
Nakita ko lang sa Facebook.
We do have those things inside to give us, hopefully, good news.
Ito na, konting bad news na naman. Speaking of baha, before we go, time now for our big pictures tonight. You might not remember, but it was 14 years ago when Typhoon Ondoy left Luzon devastated as it submerged areas in Metro Manila, Central, and Southern Luzon. Now here's a photo of Filipinos trying to get through the deep floodwaters caused by Ondoy. Back then, others were left no choice but to climb onto their roofs and attics as floodwaters reached overhead levels. Some people felt like it was the end of the world as a sense of helplessness set in while they waited for rescue. With the combined heavy rains and strong winds, Ondoy affected nearly 5 million Filipinos, making it fourth in the list of worst natural disasters in the country. For many, the memory of Ondoy remains as many hope that this will never happen again. Meron ka bang Ondoy trauma?
Naalala ko kasi yung Marikina River. Super taas nun. Then I was a student and there was public service relief operations in Ateneo. And then marami akong kaklase, professor, tsaka yung mga staff naapektuhan sa Tumana. So yun, I think that's my memory of Ondoy. Kayo?
Ako nga, at that time, I was living in a condominium. I mean, it was raining. Naalala ko, I woke up because I slept with the window open and my feet were wet. Pumapasok na yung tubig, like on my bed. Pero luckily, hindi kami naputulan ng kuryente. So I had no idea in the beginning na it was
How
so
bad it
bad.
was,
But
yeah.
since I did have internet, I went to Twitter pa yung tawag sa kanya noon. And I saw the pictures, people crying for help. And I'm like,
Well,
wow.
I wasn't actually here when Ondoy hit. I was abroad. But first of all, I was taken aback when you're reading the story because 14 years na pala. And in my
Kaya
head, the
nga eh.
question is, what have we learned in 14 years, right? Are we better at
I do think we've improved
mitigating
a lot in terms of
this-
preparing for typhoons.
In terms
You've
of
seen that in the
evacuating
north. Oh,
also?
meron na. Parang
may
meron na
early
tayo.
warning systems na? Some
Before,
of
we
them.
used to respond more to it, but now we...
proactive eh. Mas
Yes.
proactive na tayo. Kaysa yung parang
we prepare.
reactive.
We prepare for the typhoons, but hopefully we don't get more photos like that, and hopefully also the floods.
Yeah.
along our
here's
streets.
here's hoping we get that flooding master plan in place very, very soon.
That's it for the show tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.